25% of all beds across the entire NHS are occupied by people with dementia. You would think with that kind of prevalence that we would know how to care for these people to get the best out of them, but the data shows us that the opposite is true. If you come into hospital and you have dementia, you are significantly more likely to die in hospital than somebody who doesn't have dementia. You stay significantly longer. You are much more likely to experience a permanent deterioration in your mobility, your function, your thinking, your mood. And even though 2/3 of people with dementia come into hospital from their own home, less than a third ever get back there. They end up in nursing homes, residential homes. And we can't explain those clinical outcomes by looking at the illness of dementia alone. More accurately, people with dementia have those clinical outcomes because of what happens in hospital. And we know people with dementia leave hospital worse than they were when they came in. We wouldn't accept that for any other condition. We shouldn't accept it for dementia.
My mum is a very special lady. She's 88 years old. She's from France originally and she's been living in the UK for 50 years. And she's very special. She's got a really happy character and she's helped people all her life. She was an interpreter for the NHS until she was 82. And although she has dementia, she is still very much there. She is still very much my mum. And she loves chocolate. That's very important. I became her carer through circumstances, really, because I realised after she was mugged back in when my little boy was 2, so I think it was in 2014, it was January 2014, she started to lose bits of her memory and it kind of progressed, and as it's gone on we've had to help her more and more as a family. But I'll be very honest with you, I don't like being a carer. I'd rather be her daughter. But that's how it is, because otherwise she wouldn't get the right care and I want her to be looked after. I know my mum 3.5 years ago had to go to hospital and she was really scared and she kept repeating over and over again, why am I here? I don't understand why I'm here. And one night she rang me and she said, I don't know why I'm here. I think I'm going to be put into an asylum. And I said, no, you're not. And she said some of the nursing staff were a bit rough with her and when removing her catheter, and at one point she also ripped out her IV drip because she didn't know why she had to have this. And they said to me, your mother is a very aggressive person. And I said to them, she really isn't. She's upset, she's distressed, she doesn't know. And if you talk to her in a kind way or you smile at her, it will make things so much different. And you did listen, because you got a lovely nurse who looked after her and she was put in a side room. And from that point on, my mum's hospital experience changed completely. When I went in to see her, she was smiling, she was happy, she would introduce me to this nurse and say, look, this is my friend. But had that not happened, that would have been just even more awful. And I dread now my mum going to hospital, because I think if she hadn't had that nurse, it would really have affected her. So when my mum was in hospital 3.5 years ago, and after they allocated her this really lovely nurse to help her, I think what made her so special and what helped my mum's experience in hospital was the fact that she was kind, she listened, she reassured, and she laughed. She had a good sense of humour. And she'd come and tell my mum stories, and my mum would tell her stories, and she was just there for my mum. She treated her as someone who didn't have dementia. She treated her as if she was a normal person, which she is. She just happens to have an illness like any other. And she laughed, and they used to laugh together. It was really lovely to see them. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about people with dementia and people with dementia when they go to hospital. I'm sure you know, or you all know, that dementia is an all-consuming and terrible illness. And for somebody with dementia, when they go to hospital, it's even more scary than when we go, because when we go, we're aware of why we're going. When they go, they might not be aware, they might have forgotten why they're there, and it's really quite daunting and quite confusing.
Dementia Care.
At the Royal Free.
To us,
It's personal.
To me, it's personal.